Now I'd like to give you, in the last 3 or 4 minutes, an outline of end-time events predicted in the Bible. I'm just going to briefly comment on these because I just gave you the main points or headings, but this is the material behind that. First of all, we have the events before, during, and after the 7-year end-time period. This is the 70th 7 of Daniel, chapter 9, verse 27. Remember, Daniel says, yet 70 weeks are ordained for Israel. And he says, from the rebuilding, from the decree of Artaxerxes to rebuild the temple until the Christ is cut off, will be 69 weeks. And if you look at history to the day, it's 69 times 7 years from when Artaxerxes decreed until the exact day that Jesus Christ was crucified. In fact, Sir Robert Anderson, one of the great scientists of the British Empire, did a lifetime of research looking at all the ways that they've changed the calendar over the centuries, the Gregorian calendar and the Julian calendar, and he looked at the Jewish calendar. And when he got all done, he said, even with the leap year figured in, it comes down to the exact day of 69 weeks, or 69 times 7 years. It was 70 times 70 years, so it would be 460, 70 to 409, 483 years from Artaxerxes' decree until Christ was crucified. But there are 7 years left, and that's the tribulation time. That's how we get the 7 years. There are events immediately before the 7-year period. What are they? There are 4. You don't have to write them down. The church is raptured, the restrainer is removed, we stand at the judgment seat of Christ, and the Antichrist rises to power over the Roman Confederacy very quickly, in quick order. At the beginning of the 7-year period, the Antichrist makes a covenant with Israel, it says in Daniel 9. Letter C. Events in the first half of this period are Israel's living in peace, temple sacrifices are instituted, and a world church dominates the religious life with the Antichrist at the head of it. Letter D. Events perhaps just before the middle of that period. Number 1, Gog and his allies invade Palestine from the north. Gog and his allies are destroyed by God. That's very interesting. 5/6 of the army coming from the north is destroyed, and only 1/6 goes back. And it says it takes them just months and months to burn up all their armaments and gather all the bodies. Letter E. Events at the middle of the 7-year period. The Bible says that Satan is cast down from heaven. He energizes the Antichrist. The Antichrist breaks his covenant with Israel. He causes the sacrifices to cease. 10 kings under the Antichrist destroy the world church, and the 144 Israelites are saved and sealed. Isn't that interesting? God uses his own people as the missionaries of the tribulation hour. Events, letter F, of the second half of the 7-year period. These 3.5 years are called the Great Tribulation. In Revelation 7, they're the Great Distress. In Matthew 24, a time of distress. In Daniel 12:1, a time of trouble, as there's never been. What is that? Well, rebellion or apostasy against the truth is rampant. The Antichrist becomes a world ruler. He revealed himself as a man of lawlessness. There's war, famine, and death, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th seals. Converted multitudes from every nation are martyred. That's the 5th seal. Natural disturbances and worldwide fear of divine wrath are the 6th seal. In fact, people wish they could die. It says that they ask and cry out for the mountains and rocks to fall on them. But God doesn't let them because they're so afraid of him. The Antichrist sets up an image to be worshipped. 2 witnesses begin their ministry. Remember, after 144,000 are done, or contemporaneous with them, there are 2 witnesses that can stop the rain and do all kinds of wonders. The false prophet promotes the Antichrist. The mark of the beast is used. Israel's scattered because of Satan and because of the abomination of the Antichrist image in the temple. Jerusalem's overrun by Gentiles. The Antichrist and false prophets deceive many. The gospel of the kingdom is proclaimed throughout the earth. Remember that angel comes and preaches of the Creator. Israel's persecuted. The trumpet and bowl judgments are poured out. And blasphemy intensifies. As people in Revelation 16, it says they gnaw on their tongues. They go, and bite their tongues and then swear at God instead of crying out to him. Letter G. Events concluding the 7-year period. The 2 witnesses are slain. They're resurrected. The king of the south and north fight the Antichrist. The Antichrist enters Palestine. He defeats Egypt, Libya, and Ethiopia. Armies from the east and north move toward Palestine. Jerusalem gets ravaged. Babylon is destroyed. Signs start showing up as there's this cosmic earthquake in the sky. And Christ returns with the armies of heaven. I always like that in Revelation 19, because when we stand on top of Mukhraka in Israel looking down at Armageddon, I always tell the group, the next time most of you will be here, you'll come on horseback. And they all go, what do you mean by that? I say, you'll be coming with the King of Kings and Lord of Lords in the air as he comes to fight the beast. And the armies unite at Armageddon against Christ. They're destroyed by Christ. And the beast, the Antichrist, and the false prophet are thrown in the lake of fire. Letter H. What are the events following the 7-year period? Israel is finally regathered. A remnant of Israel turned to the Lord. National deliverance of Israel from the Antichrist. Living Israel is judged. Living Gentiles are judged. That's the sheep and goat judgment. Satan is cast in the abyss, Revelation 20. Old Testament saints are resurrected. Tribulation saints are resurrected. And we enjoy the marriage supper of the Lamb, and Christ begins to reign on the earth. Number 2, the millennium. The earth changes in its physical characteristics. Wild animals are tamed. Crops become abundant. People live. You can live the whole time. Did you know? You can live a whole 1,000 years if you aren't bad during the millennium. I mean, not us, because we'll be glorified if you're a believer, but people that survive the tribulation can live the whole millennium. God pulls back the curse and people don't die. It's almost like Eden. Topography and geography are radically changed. Letter B, spiritual and religious characteristics. Satan's in the abyss. The millennial temple is built. Animal sacrifices are offered as memorials to Christ's death. Isn't that interesting? They go back to offering animal sacrifices, not to cover their sins, but just like we celebrate the Lord's table looking back. So they offer animal sacrifices looking back at his death in this giant temple, the millennial temple. Feasts of the New Year, Passover, and Tabernacles are reinstituted. All the nations come and worship in Jerusalem, and people know about God. Political events, Israel's united and is at peace, and the Abrahamic covenant land grant boundaries are given to Israel. They don't even have to use any tanks to get it. God just gives it to them. Events following the millennium, letter D. Satan is released from the abyss. He deceives the nations. They besiege Jerusalem. God burns them all. He casts Satan in the lake of fire. He casts the evil angels into the lake of fire. He resurrects the dead, wicked. They are judged at the great white throne, and they're cast in the lake of fire. Point 3, eternity. Christ delivers the kingdom to God. The present heavens and earth are changed. New heavens and earth are reformed. Jerusalem descends to the earth, and Christ rules forever in the eternal kingdom. There, I just did all of history.